I don't know if you can hear me, but I am on. I am live, waiting for 5 o'clock Eastern time. Hope you all are doing well. Oh, good. Thank you. I just saw your text, your chat. Appreciate it. That is great. I think I saw that there were 7 uh, in the meeting so far, but we are early, so looking forward to visiting with all of you. This this particular method, using you as audience instead of hosts, um, doesn't allow us to talk back and forth unless you call in or request a live call. Once you're in, then you can talk and be heard and seen. And then when you hang up, then you are back in the audience again. I wanted to be sure everybody had an easy way to get into the meeting, unlike last week. And so the audience mode was the best way to, at least this week, to try this. And I do have chat visible. And so any questions you have or any comments you want to make, please do so. Glad to respond to that. Just checking to see whose names I can use. So Kyle, thank you very much. Okay. It's been an interesting day. I've been again working to get this together, and um, I get kind of nervous doing these. I do them once in a while, and I love doing them, but I still get nervous. So please bear with me. So, Report Writers Group, week number 2. Welcome. So glad that you're able to attend, and we'll get started in a few minutes. Let me check something here. It says I still only have 7 in the meeting. If you are here, well, maybe, yeah, if you're here, be sure you have texted me. I mean, chatted with me, so that I know that who is here and who might not be. Good. Lisa can hear us now. That's great. Thank you, Desiree, Heather, Lisa. I'm hoping, assuming this goes well today, and I feel that it will. I'm hoping next week we might be able to try the other method. Okay. If you, oh, there you go. If, oh, let's see, Sandy. Oh, good, good, good. So, if Tennessee, if you're here, just chat me with your first initial so I can know that you're here. It looks like we've got almost everybody. That's great. All right, we're going to get started. Let me know on chat if you can't hear me very well, or if you can't see the screen very well, or if it's not very big. I do know that if you click off the chat button in other words, closed chat, you'll have a much bigger screen view of what I'm showing. But if you're having trouble, chat me and let me know that you are having trouble with it. Otherwise, I won't know. Okay, so welcome to week 2, and so you got this, I believe, in the mail or in the email. I just want to be sure that you all knew that you'd be seeing the black screen and the studio isn't live yet until I came on. But it looks like we're good to go on that. And also, I seem to be calling you by name, and that's good. I'm glad that most of you have names now and are okay with me using them. So this is the picture of who is attending and from where. We've got you from all over the country, and that's great. So let's get going. I promise only one elephant in the whole show today, and you're seeing him right now. So we're going to be covering the basics. Most of you have not done any report writing in Sage, and for you, we are covering the basics, the very basics. A few of you have done a little. Some of you have done more than a little, but not a lot. So for you, please have patience while we cover some things that you may know, and but you will still probably learn or relearn some new things. So we'll get going. All right, the table of contents. Let me take a look here. Here's the table of contents I sent you, and I'm not going to show you this again because I'm going to be showing you segments of it in the process. If you took a look at the if you took a look at this that I sent you earlier today, you can see how I'm doing it. Showing you the table of contents and the area we're going to talk about, and then we'll go right into that area and talk about it. And so we're going to go into the basics, and we're going to start with opening a report form and how you do that. So let me go back here. Okay. And so you go into the edit, and so just getting into the form design is easy by clicking edit and then into form design. That opens up the form design. So we'll go into report numbering as a process. When you are numbering the reports that you create, you use the menu number. Here's the menu, 311, for example, and then you would use the number of the report that you want as the last 4 digits, for set of 4 digits. So in this case, you've got 030101 and then 21. Now, in Sage, reports 21 to 99 are all Sage standard reports. Those come with the system. You can use them no problem, but you can't change them unless you make a new number for that report. And by making a new number, I mean you can select the menu that you want it to be in. And so if you want it to be in 311, the new report number that you put in when you save it is 030101, and then the report number that you give it that would be in here or show up in here would be between 0 and 20. So the report that you make would be 31101 or 02 or 2 or 3 or all the way to 20. And so that way you've got actually quite a few spaces that you can provide, that you are provided to fill up these menu locations with your reports. So let's go to Sage and take a look at this real quick. So 311. And here you can see that I've got lots of reports. And besides just 1, 2, 3 through 20, you also can do 0, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z. And after you get to 19, you can do 1, A, B, C, D, all the way up to G, to Z, and then number 20. And that's where that stops. The ABCs, using that, you can only use the 0 and the 1 with the letter after it. But because I do report writing, I need all the spaces I can get. And so all of these are custom reports or working on them. Later I'll show you or explain one thing that I do. Let me see if there's an example in here. No, not there. Let's go to here. I'll show you in the other area, in the 13.4 menu, when we get to it. Anyway, that's how the numbering is done and how the numbers are made for writing reports. Okay. So these are all custom reports I've created. As you can see, I'm a busy guy. But what I want to show you is okay, if you run out of room or by chance you just don't want to assign a new report with a number menu because you don't quite know where to put it yet, or maybe you will want to use this area 13.4, you can use the name of the report, and then it'll be listed in here in 13.4 with the name of the report. And so that's what I do. I use, and this is crucial, it happened to me again today, or maybe it was yesterday. When I am doing report writing and I am working on adding calculations, SQL statements, or anything that is a change to the report that I'm writing, I'll make that change and I'll start off with the name of the report and then a -1A. And when I make a change, I'll save it as -1B. And then I run the report and make sure it runs. And if it runs, great. Then I make another change or add another field or add another formula, and then I'll save it as 1C and then 1D and so forth. What happens is when Sage does not like something that you did, I did a new formula and saved it, and what it does is sometimes, not always, but once in a while, it'll come up and say, oh, basically, I don't like that. We'll try and replace it. We'll try and put everything back together and provide you what you had, but that never does. What it does is it wipes out the entire report. Blank, gone, zero. And that's happened to me too many times. And so doing this is crucial. I can't tell you how important that is if you're doing report writing. And then sometimes I'll try a method and then I'll try a different type and a different layout, and then I have the history too of all the different things that I tried. Okay, beating a horse dead there. So let me go back to the meeting. So anyway, that's how you name reports. And we're going to now go to report forms, the header, footer, detail area, and then we'll be talking about the grid and the snap to, the company predefined fields, changing field properties, and the boundaries and margins. So let's go ahead and talk about the header. Now, we're still in report forms. We're going to be in report forms all day. In the report form, it's a bit different than in your custom report area where you have the rows, the groupings and all those kinds of things. The report form is the blank sheet of paper. The custom report is the letter that you're writing. It's the information on the blank sheet of paper. But the report forms are the blank sheets of paper, and so there aren't any rows or things like that. It's just one big palette. And so in the header, we usually put things like the report name and things like that. And then there's a gray area, which is where the data comes into the report form. I'll show you another picture here in a moment. It'll show the whole gray area. And then in the footer, we put in the times and dates and the report number, the report name. Sometimes depends on what you want to do, what you want to show. And so let's go to this. Here's the gray area that is in a report form. Now, that is just an icon up here. You click on it, and then you draw in the gray area, and it's there, and it can be any size. You'll want it to be as big as you can so that you don't have too many pages from the report form generating the data from the custom report. I will show you that in a minute. That's better, so much better to just show you. Let's see, that's a good one to try. Okay, so I'm going to go into Edit. I've clicked on a report, and so I'm going to Edit and Form Design. Okay, so this is the header up here, and we put in fields to populate that, and the gray area, and scrolling down, and there's the footer. Now, if I click on the gray area, this is a big report. So this is the middle. So I can go up to see, sometimes it's hidden down here, some things. Let me slide over a bit here. Where is it? Oh, here. Okay. Okay, this is 16 inches wide. And see, the form is just the piece of paper that all the data goes on. Let's try and look at this side of it. Yeah. When you get reports that are this wide and so many columns, you really are basically always sending them to Excel. And that's why there's not much data up here. Because when this goes to Excel, then all this stuff can encroach into the Excel areas and sometimes populate where the other data goes. And so we need to minimize this when you're doing these for Excel. But let me get back to the process. It's good to have shown you that. Oh, let me take another look real quick here. And so if I want to draw in one of these, let's just take this one out. All you do is go up here to the icon with the gray. It says create a report detail area. Click it, and you can draw the gray area like that. Make it whatever size you want. Okay. No, I don't want to save it. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the process here. Okay, the form extensions, what those are the dot report, dot land, dot long, dot purchase, dot punch list. So If it's a custom report, it's always going to end in .rpf. But the report forms always have something like these as the extensions. And what they do is they tell the system, either the shape or the location of the report form. .report is portrait, .report land is landscape, .report long is portrait, and just a longer version like legal or something like that. Or it could just flow into another page on the portrait, on the letter sheets. .purchase would mean that it's in the purchase order area and is a standard system thing, or punch list. All of those things can be varied. There's a whole ton of them. And so anyway, those are the extensions. Now I need to shrink this up again. Okay. There. Okay, when you, this is going to be easier for me to show you. The snap to and the layout for the report forms. Let me go in here and do that. And when you are in the form design, this is just a plain white background. But if you go into pages and you do format, I hope that's big enough for you to see. This is the layout of the page, this sheet here, the width and the height, the margins. But right here is the grid. So right now it's not showing any grid, and so it's a lined. There aren't any lines. Just show a 1/4 inch grid in the background. Let me do that and save. Okay, now you can see these. It's very faint, but you can see there's the squares, the lines here and here. Grid. It's a grid background basically, so it helps you to see what how that's all lined up so that you can get things lined up well. The other thing that you need to do, of course, in the report forms is there aren't any rows. No bands or rows, grouping rows or detail rows. And so you're kind of on your own as to figure out how to place these. And what I do is I will click and properties, and I go into this area here, right here. This is the numbers used to determine how high or how far over these fields go. And so this one is at 28. And this one's at 50. And so if I want them, actually, this one is at 50. Let's go with this one and see. So that's 70. So that's 22 units apart. And if you want there to be equal spacing between groups of these, you can determine. I usually go in 15s or 20s, easier to calculate. You can start one at 70 and the next one at 85 and the next one going down the row if you've got a listing of 3 or 4 of these. And on the left, I usually start at 1 or 2, but you can also do them in 5s in the way of so it's easy to, okay, this one comes out, this starts at 5, this one's going to be at 10. And so figuring out how to space these is done pretty much in this area, the object properties. You also have the type of formatting. So you could use the for dollars and cents or dates. They've got quite a few things to choose from. The question came up with a client the other day, and they wanted just 1 decimal point, which makes sense. I wanted to be able to use 1 decimal point, but Sage doesn't have that as an option. Can you imagine? it's either 0 decimals or 2 or 3 or 4 or more. Anyway. Okay. Pixels, okay. Could be pixels, definitely. Danny said, I'm pretty sure that the units they use are pixels. Thank you. And so the object properties, you'll use these a lot. We'll get into the do not print line. If you want a line, especially in the grid area, where you've got on the custom report side, if you've got rows and you have data flowing into those rows, and you don't want them to show, let's say you've got lists of cost codes, and you don't want to show the rows that don't have any values, so that you don't get this 5-page long report when you really only needed 1 page, because there's only like 10 cost codes that have data. Find a field in there that is the field that would be the one that would always have data or not. And you can click this, and that way, if that field does not have data, and this is clicked, then that row won't show at all. It'll be there, but it won't be visible. I'll be showing you that more again later in when we're talking about that kind of item, but I just want to mention that since we're here. And this is print 0 if the value is 0. So you know that there's a field there showing. Okay. But anyway, we're talking placement of items in the report form. And here's the properties. Let's see what else. You can do the bolding, that type of thing, underlining, changing the size. Oh, and characters. A lot of times Sage pops up here and shows 0 characters, which means that it'll flow, with whatever it wants. I don't let that happen, because I don't want it to control. I want me to be able to control that space. So let's say you've got a field in here that is a number, and you want to have, let's say, 12 spaces or 15 spaces. So, no matter how big that number is, you want to be sure it shows the whole number. And so you could just go 12 and click OK. But sometimes if it's 0, you don't know what it's going to come up with. And so I would always fill in the characters with a certain number. Like sometimes the a part number or a record number is never going to be more than 5 or 6 characters. You can just use an 8 in here to be sure there's plenty of room. That's type of thing. So let's go on to the next. I don't want to save that. Okay, just going to minimize that. Come back here. And so that's the grid area. That's just what we're talking about, the grid, the 1/4 inch. Okay, so we just went to the Sage to see that in action. So we can go on now to the next thing. Predefined calculated fields. These are marvelous. These fields are in Sage and recognize and automatically replaces the data. You can read that. Let me show you the list. Okay, these are only used in the report form, not in the custom report area. And so if you see CP caret, that means that it's a report form company predefined field. And so if you want in the report form, if you want the company name or any of these items, find the field that starts with the CP and use that. And that'll be easy for you to get this kind of data into the report form. Now you can see that there's a lot of things that are calculations that the system is providing you to pull data, whether it's contact data or numbers. Formulas are pre-built for some of these things. Unfortunately, the list is finite, and so there's only a certain number of things that you can do. But it'll bring in the current date, the current time, tax IDs, report subtitles, those kinds of things. You can find these things and um, use them as you find them and need them. Okay. Also, these are in your Sage lookup under Help. Just type in that and then predefined fields, and the list will come up if you need to find the list again. Okay, so maybe I don't need to show this. I think we saw this in some of these reports already that we were looking at. This has been happening a lot lately. Okay, so here's a one of those fields that we're talking about, the CP caret page number, and I'll bet at the bottom there's some more. Oh, this is one of those biggies that doesn't have anything at the bottom. Anyway, that's those. So, okay, now we're going to take a look at changing field properties, boundaries, and margins. And it says band rows, but I don't think we're going to touch base on that. I'm just checking the time frame. So let's go on into okay, so adding new fields to the form. It's the same thing as, and we added new fields to the reports last week. And it's the same thing here. You would just click in a space, go up to the icon, insert, and enter in the field name that you find from the list and pop it in there. Then you can use the properties in order to make sure the placement of them is where you want them to be. Let me see here. Okay. And so okay, so that's it for that. We're going to go on to the next thing. Boundaries. Yes, with boundaries on these forms. These are the standard, boundaries. And when you go up to that area that said page, and then you can look at the background of how this is laid out, where the grid was, and it also had the margins in that. This line will show where you set those margins to be. And I would suggest being useful of this, because if you move your fields too far over, then they may not show. Depends on when you're running the regular report, and the gray area here, which is the gray box for the custom report data. If that stops here and you've got stuff over here, then it's not going to show, or it may not show, especially if the gray box is over it. But anyway, those are the margins. Let's take a look at the, no, I might have to scroll down more here. No, there's another one of these I want to show you. Oh, okay, let me go to the next page. That's 22. Oh, oh, there it is. Okay, haven't got to it yet. Okay, changing field properties. Let's go to just trying to get it to show without going on to the next slide. I'm still getting used to working with any venue, the venue that we're in with Riverside or Teams last week, to make sure that it works smoothly. And I'm afraid I'm not being very smooth these days. Okay, changing field properties. Okay, let's go here. Now this is still talking about the report form. So in form design, very frustrating. Come on. Okay, let's try a different one. Okay. So properties. You've got a field here in the report form. Here's a good example too. I'm glad we picked on this one. First, look at the properties, and then I'll talk about this is another kind of use of the report form. So you go into properties, and that's where you can set the properties for each field. You can do the type style, the font size, bold or regular, the placement of it. This is the placement of this particular field. The top is how high this top line goes. The left, how far over this edge of the field goes. The width, sometimes you don't have control over that, but it'll tell how wide this is. And the height, of course, is the height of the field. Color, the forecolor, that's the font color. The background color would be colors like this. Let's put in something there and use plum, and you'll see what happens. And then the format of the field tells you, if it's dollars and how many zeros or commas or no commas, and the date formats. And then the alignment of the field, left, right, so left or right, and how many characters the field is to have. Also, if you wanted to print a 0 if there's no data. So I'm going to show you the color that is going to go on in there. Now see, that's the background color. let's go back in. That's the background color. Let me go to white on there. And click OK. Now I'm going to go in and show you the color for the type. And so that's this. I usually go with a darker red. And let's make it bold so it's more visible. Okay, now let's take a look. Okay, so now you've got whatever shows up, whatever shows up there is going to be in dark red lettering. Okay, so that's changing field properties. Okay, let's move on. When you, excuse me, when you have a report form and you've got the header area and the footer area and then the gray area in the middle, and again, the gray area is where all the data comes from the custom report part. Even though your gray area goes over to, let's say, if this is portrait, then it goes to 7.5, but it actually will go to 8 or so. There is an area, even though the gray area is there, that data won't show, even though it flows into it and it's there on your form. You have to just be aware that 7.5 inches is about as far over as data flow as you can go. On the this is a portrait, but on the landscape, where it goes over to supposedly 11 inches, really that line is at the 10-inch marker. You'll experience it and you'll figure it out, but figure that 10 inches over is as far over on landscape as you can go, and 7.5 inches over is as far over as you can go on portrait. Oh yes, we need to talk about page 2. Page 2 in your report form is usually basically a blank gray area sheet for overflow. Now, a lot of times you have reports that are 3 or 4 pages long, or 20 pages, depends. This page 2 takes care of all those overflow pages. Even though it's one page in your report form, it is magical in that sense. It'll take as many pages as you want to finish however much data flows in from the report that's coming through from the custom report. And you just leave it as large as you can and blank, and it'll provide what's needed in space for the report. You can have a page 3 with other data, and that's very common, like in contracts. So in a report form, you would have the first page with the header and the footer, gray area, and then the second page is basically mostly just gray area, and the third page could be the contract data. Now, there's no gray area on that, or you could have a little gray area if you need it for something. We'll go into some examples, and you'll see them. But that's what the page 2 is, and you should always have a page 2. It's sometimes not required because the page 1 doesn't have much flow over, but it's always wise to have a page 2, even if it's never used. Okay. Now here's an example of a page 3. Let me make that bigger. on the client invoice, you can add the business license, sales tax form, insurance forms on the back of that. So page 3, 4, 5 could be images of or data of various different types of forms. I need to show you that. I think we're getting close to. Matter of fact, yeah. So, and we're getting down to 10 minutes from the 6 o'clock hour here. So let me go in and let's see here. Oh yeah, contracts. How about subcontracts? Okay. Subcontract. Let's see what we got here. Okay, I'm going to go into the form. And so the form is the contract. And in a contract, on the form, you have the stuff that you've typed in. But then you have some fields that can be populated. So I need the subcontract. Let me see what that is. So it's behind, so I can't get to it right yet. Maybe I can. No. Anyway, that's probably a subcontract date. It looks like a date from the subcontract. So that fills in automatically. You typed all this in. And then this is the original subcontract total. And this would be the retainage amount. And so the contract goes like this. Now there's some gray area. Let's go to page 2 and see, this is the overflow that I'm talking about. And then on page 3, the contract continues. For some reason, maybe that was the scope of work on page 1. Let's see, that could probably be the scope of work. And if it overflows, then they need space for that. And so page 3, the contract continues. I need to show you how to do this too, to enter those. That's a trip. Okay. And then the last page, let's see what's up here. This is just the rest of the contract. It happened to flow to the signatures page, but that's just the next part of the contract. So down here, it was, if it came to an end and you signed, well, the signing happened to come up on here. So while we're here, real quick, I'm going to go up here to, let me find one that's old. I'm not sure what this is. Let's see. I gotta get to Sage and get this to stop doing this. Drives me nuts. It's just started happening with the last update. Oh, there are some comments here. Let's see. What's the best way to set up a report form when you want to export to Excel? Oh, good question. Let me get this out of here. Okay. Question. The best way to set up a report form when you want to export to Excel. Okay. The answer to that is to make as little on the report form as possible. I showed you that one really wide report form, and there was just a little data up here in the corner. And it's even better. Let's say you've got 12 columns. of data in the custom report, then you might want to position the data in what would become a 13th column so that it doesn't encroach on, when it goes to Excel, that data, like the company name, the report name, and the date and that kind of thing, doesn't flow into the rows that are there. And if you got a 12 column report and you put it what would end up being a 13th column, then if they don't need it, they can just click and delete that column, and they don't delete data. So I don't know if I have something handy here. It wouldn't be in this one. It would be in, let me see if there's more on this to show other things. No. Okay. Good question. That would probably be in reports. Sometimes I'll have it just say Excel ready. This is not the report form, but no, that's not a big one. Well, that I can bring that answer and have an example in the next week. That's a really good question. Oh, it looks like there's something else here. No, there's not a 12 column limit on data. I've got reports, there is a limit, but I've got reports that are 40 columns and 50 columns. Now, the limit comes when you reach what this will allow, generally. Tabloid 11 by 17 is often a limitation on printing more with Excel. Not always, but usually. So what we do in here, this is the custom report part. If we've got a lot of columns and we're having trouble when we actually print them, that Sage won't print anything beyond like 16 inches, then you have to make these columns really close together. I saw a report that was done, and I happened to come across it because they sent it to me to fix something. And there was a column every 1/8 inch. You couldn't read this at all, but there was a column every 1/8 inch. And then when you sent it to Excel and clicked it to expand, it was perfect. Because they did that because everything had to fit within a certain number of inches here. And so yes, you can squeeze things together here. Of course, you couldn't just print it to the paper and see it that way. But if it's exported to Excel, you can do quite a lot of columns. Good question. Okay, we are getting here at the end. So what I'm going to do is see if you have any more questions. Is there any way to remove leading zeros that export in front of some of the data? I don't think leading zeros do show up. Are you finding that, Lisa? Are you finding that leading zeros are showing up? We have a positive pay report that we have to trim every time, really. Okay. Can you send me an example of that sometime this week or when you have a chance? I'd like to see that. Because one of the things that I have trouble with positive pay reports doing them is they want leading zeros, and I can't do them. I can't provide leading zeros in front of Now, leading zeros, what is that? Okay, well, say the column is 12 inches wide or 12 characters wide, and the number is only 6 characters, and they want zeros in all those remaining spots so that it matches their structure. I can't do that in writing a report in Sage. Now, if anybody has ever done that and is successful, I'd sure like to know. Sorry, maybe it's just a space. Okay, could be just a space. Okay, I got a minute and a half here, so um, we aren't going to get to see any more samples. How do you do documents in form? How to do documents in forms? I'll cover that in another time. No assignments for today, but thank you for turning in the assignments that you did do. I got some interesting layouts, and I will talk more about that next week. But thank you, all of you. Thank you so much for attending. I'm sorry I'm a little scatterbrained today. I look at the page in the book that is up on the screen, and I'm thinking, what was I trying to say there? But that's why I put it into this format so that I can do this this way. Help me to know what works. If this is too hard, I can try and get a little more structured. Thank you so much for your time. It is time to say goodbye for the week, and thank you so much for all that you do. It's a pleasure, my pleasure to work with you. Thank you. Take care. Thanks for all your notes here in the chat. Appreciate it.